Welcome everyone. Today is the third and final webinar from Georgia Commute Options on business continuity during the coronavirus pandemic. I don't know how many of you have seen the videos online of teleworking snafus, but that's not anything you'll have to worry about today. Only my screen will be shared with everyone on this webinar. My name is Dan Murphy. I'm the program manager for Georgia Commute Options, and I'll be administering today's webinar session. Georgia Commute Options offers a suite of services that are available at no cost to help commuters and employers make the switch from driving alone as part of a regional strategy to reduce traffic and improve air quality. Before I hand over to today's presenters, I wanted to tell everyone about a few housekeeping notes. For the sake of presenters, we have muted all participants for the duration of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and you will receive a follow-up email with the recording. It will also be made available on the GCO website. Next, I'd like to call out the Q&A feature here on Zoom. If you have a question you'd like us to answer, just please drop them in there. There's also a chat feature that we'll be moderating as well. For today's presentation, we have Barry O'Brien and Drew Kalazewski from Partner Consulting. Drew is the Vice President of Partner Consulting and has more than 25 years of experience in telecom and IT. He's written several articles on telework topics, including telework success with technology, evolving telework technology, and the telework emergency checklist. Barry established Partner Consulting Services in 1998. Under his direction, the consulting practice has successfully served a client base that includes Fortune 500 businesses, regional healthcare providers, and government entities. Partner Consulting works with employers around the country to help with the telework program implementations, and they have worked locally with the GCO team specifically to help guide and inform technology needs as GCO works with Georgia employers to start and enhance telework programs. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Barry.
Thank you, Dan. Partner Consulting has helped businesses and organizations assess and implement telecommunication technologies for over 20 years. Today, we have an unprecedented need for telework as a business continuity tool. Fortunately, many of the telework technology components required to work at home are widely available. During today's webinar, we will focus on collaboration services and provide a framework for evaluating your telework options. Georgia Commute Options has been a leader in the country in bringing telework education and support to the business community. We've been very proud to work with GCO. Over the past 2 weeks, there have been excellent webinars that focus on the people side of telework, addressing key components to create the right worker, the right manager, and the right job. This afternoon, we'll discuss the right technology with emphasis on collaboration. First, a quick look at how technology evolved to support telework. Technology has greatly expanded the way in which we communicate. In the 70s, business communication was primarily office meetings and telephones. In the 1980s, email started to evolve beyond academics and technologists and began to enter the workplace. Today, our communication tools are overwhelming and growing more and more each day. So how did that happen? Well, first, telecommunication networks evolved from low-speed modems physically connected to computers to now high-speed voice and data networks available remotely to the majority of our population. Secondly, and most importantly, for today's conversation, access to applications most people require to do their jobs has moved from having to be in the office to connect to these applications to now these applications being available over the internet, or as we say, in the cloud. Today, my colleague Drew Kalazewski will talk about collaboration tools that are available and in the cloud, also known as software as a service. Drew will discuss how you can evaluate what you have, what you need, and what's available. So with that, I'll turn it over to Drew.
Thank you, Barry. And first, I'd like to start off by saying congratulations to everyone on this call who's now trying telework for the first time. I know we were thrown into this situation kind of in a hurry, and your home office may not be set up exactly correctly just yet, but I just want to assure you that we are all in this together. So So first we'll start out with what exactly is software as a service. Um, as a service is a definition is a software distribution model in which service provider hosts applications for customers and makes them available to these customers via the internet. And really what's important to really think about with the evolution of software is that if you remember a while back, you actually had to purchase the software and load it yourself, load it on your laptop. Sometimes it's downloaded and then loaded. Using software as a service, the actual software provider actually provides the software through the internet, but they host it on their own devices, which means they will always keep it up to date for you, and you don't have to worry about version upgrades and things like that. They'll also even do things like back up the data. One of the important things about software as a service is it basically makes the application available anywhere, anytime, which lends itself to telework very nicely. And I wanted to give you an example of some software as a service applications. Today in this webinar, we're really going to focus a lot on the collaboration piece, which is the first section. But there are two others, and I broke them out this way deliberately: collaboration, file sharing, and then kind of just applications that you would use for business. Because what we find is those are the three types of applications that people use most when they work remotely. File sharing, it's important to think about. When you work in an office, you may have a shared drive or a place where you store files. But when you start to work remotely, sometimes there's a tendency to send your files or share your files with other folks by just attaching them to email. In some cases, based on the size of the file, it may not be possible to do that. So using a file sharing application is very helpful. And file sharing applications also will allow you to do things like lock down certain directories with regard to permissions. So if you had, say, some personnel files or some management specific files, you might want to only allow certain people access to those files, but other people that you're collaborating with, you could have files for them that they could access based on a project, but that might be the only thing that they can access. And then generally with applications, these would be applications that you use in your day-to-day business, such as Intuit's QuickBooks. So they would be available, if they're available as software as a service, they're available anywhere to log into. Um, so after looking at a long list of products like that, a lot of the next question usually is, well, what product should we use? And so I think a good perspective to use to consider that is, well, what are we trying to accomplish? And basically we want to apply the right technology to set you up for success. So, a couple of things that we look at specifically with collaborating, what we'd like to do is create a situation is with your business where how you communicate. If the actual meetings where 5 people go into a conference room is really the best way to get something done. When it's appropriate to do one of these, I call them drop-in meetings, but it's basically when you walk up to somebody's desk and say, got a minute? We work with a lot of clients who do regular one-on-one meetings. So a manager will have a one-on-one meeting with each of his subordinates just to make sure that they're tracking tasks appropriately and getting have the right priorities set. So how you work effectively and collaborate effectively. What we really want to try to do is take what works for you in the office environment and try to apply technology to help you do that in a remote environment. And another thing that's useful to mention, I think, is really consider your customers. And they are the reason that we have a business. And so when you move to this remote environment, think about things like, how will the clients contact you? A lot of times it's going to be using the same tools that we use to collaborate with one another. If they dial a toll-free number to reach you, you need to start thinking about ways that you might want to take that toll-free number and redirect it to the right person who's going to be able to answer those calls when you're working remotely. Also, leveraging the tools that we have for meetings. If you regularly have to meet with clients and you do it in person, we may be switching that over to more of a video setting with a collaboration tool. So these are some examples of features that most collaboration tools have. And like I said, the concept is really to replicate that in-person collaboration. And so the first three across the top, voice and video, screen sharing, and online whiteboarding, these are really classic kind of meeting techniques. Obviously voice and video is going to have to be used when we can't meet in person. But just want to, remind everybody that there are options such as screen sharing. I know a lot of times when we collaborate in the office, we may want to show something to somebody that we're working on. Take a look at this spreadsheet, look at this column. You want that person to follow along with you so that you could explain to them, what you're trying to show them. So when we go into a more dispersed environment and we're working remotely, you do have the same option of doing that, and it's by using screen sharing. And really what we find is it's a great way to keep everybody that's on your call on the same page with you, because you're controlling the screen and kind of directing them where to look. Also online whiteboarding, which is a fun application. But some of the best meetings that you have where you do collaborate, it's around a whiteboard, and it's very easy to just grab a marker, go up to that board, and start to draw out some of your thoughts so that you can actually illustrate them, so that people can understand what you're trying to communicate. And it's a great collaborative tool. Well, that can be replicated in a remote setting as well. Online whiteboarding applications are available in a lot of collaboration tools, and they are very helpful when you need to design or develop or even to train or teach somebody. The last two on the list down at the bottom, presence and instant messaging, these are the tools that are really very useful, I think, to help you stay kind of connected and engaged with your colleagues. Presence is a great way for you to figure out when somebody's available and when it's appropriate for you to message them or call them. Usually their presence indicator will indicate that they're available. And what I really equate this to in a physical office environment is the same way that you might get up from your desk and perhaps walk down the hall and go see if somebody's available. In the office where you're all working remotely, presence is the way that you're going to do that. And another helpful feature with presence, one that I've used, that I'm using right now in this call, in this presentation, is do not disturb. If you put yourself in do not disturb mode, what it does is it mutes your alarms and the ability for you to receive calls and messages. So, it's an important tool to have that can be very helpful to you, also very powerful. So in this slide, what I'm really trying to do is share with you some of the most common collaborative technologies that we see out there today. And common, I would say more popular. And so there's a lot of content on this slide. And what I really wanted to do was put this into kind of a grid that would kind of allow you to see each application side by side. Because I'm thinking many of you are thinking right now, what kinds of tools are out there and what could I use and what are some of the differences between them? So starting with the top, Cisco WebEx is a product that has been around for a long time, and I'm sure many of you on this call have actually probably attended WebEx meetings, whether they're seminars, training sessions, those types of things. It's a very solid product. Cisco's had it for a long time. One of the things that I think makes it very relevant for migrating or implementing, a telework program is that it does have a free offering for businesses. And that free offering provides up to 50 participants in a conference call. And it does actually have a limit of about 40 minutes for your call. And what they've done as a result of the coronavirus, in order to be supportive of the community, they've actually opened up those restrictions, and they're actually allowing in the entry-level free offering, they allow up to 100 participants, and you can conference as long as you want. So it's a great way to get started with that tool and get working in a collaboration tool that's been around for a long time and is very good. The next two products on this list, the Google G Suite and Office 365, those are two packages that are really all-encompassing when you're looking at office tools and collaboration. I mean, most everybody's probably used a lot of these products for word processing, for spreadsheeting, and for email and calendaring. And so one of the reasons why I think they're relevant here is if you are using these products and you're looking for a collaboration tool, it may be just because you have a subscription to some of those products. The collaboration tools may be part of your package. So it's a great place to start if you're looking to get involved in using a collaboration package. And I'll just give you a quick example. If you have an Office 365 subscription, you may want to see if it includes Microsoft Teams, because it would be a great way for you to start using a technology that you've already paid for, and see if it works well for your organization. The last two items on the list, Slack and Zoom, are fairly newcomers. Slack, I think, has been around since 2014 and Zoom since 2011. They both also offer some free plans, which is nice to know. Slack, it actually has a different take on collaboration, and really what they look to do is be an alternative to email. And the way that they set this up is, if you think about how you get your information through email today, many times it's not categorized. It just comes in chronological order. The most recent item is probably at the top of your inbox, and so it's something that you have to kind of hunt and peck through. With Slack, what they do is organize everything in channels. And so basically, if I was a person who used Slack, and let's just say I was a project manager, I might set up a channel for my project, and that channel would be the place where I would post all communication. So it could be a quick message. It could be that rather than emailing a document to you, I would just post that document to the channel. And basically everybody who works on that project with me would have one place to go to communicate and to see all the information. And then additionally, it allows you the ability to sort through that information. So really what we're saying here is you kind of have one place to go to for all that information. And I think that the thing that really makes that relevant and very nice is that it becomes a reference point. And sometimes even these texts or chats that go back and forth to say to resolve a problem, they're actually in your search history. So it could be valuable if you remember at one point, hey, I think we chatted about that. You could actually search for it and look it up. And the last one on the list is Zoom. As I had mentioned, they have a free plan. One of the things with Zoom, I think, that's really made it get popular very quickly, I think one is certainly the coronavirus, but also two, it's just a very intuitive, easy platform to use. And it's also very efficient with how it delivers its video content. So in other words, it works well over low bandwidths. So it's become a pretty popular package pretty quickly. Their free plan offers up to 100 participants with a 40-minute limit. And here again with coronavirus, they've opened that up to the community, so you can usually stay on longer than 40 minutes. A couple of interesting things with Zoom that are kind of fun, and I haven't seen these with the other applications. One is they do have a touch up your appearance feature if you go into the video settings. And so basically what you can do is if you click on this, it actually smooths out your skin tones and actually tries to make you look a little bit better. And then the other thing that's kind of fun is it actually does have a background setting so that you could actually change the background so that you could look like you're in a different setting. On the next slide, I just want to go over some recommendations on how to evaluate your requirements. And really, generally, we see there's kind of four types of requirements for telework. Hardware could be things like laptops, perhaps a printer if you need to do things like print and mail invoices. Applications, certainly, if there are certain programs that you use in order to conduct business. Collaboration technologies, such as the ones we just spoke about, and also the ability to share files. And really what we recommend is to try to take a look at the technology that you have today and see what you can use that you have already. And by doing that, you'll find probably there's a faster implementation of your telework program. You'll find also it saves money because you're not buying new things, and it also minimizes the learning curve to some extent. So this kind of aspect of things, I would look at as probably the first part of a telework technology review. Kind of define your requirements, and then kind of understand secondarily, what technology you have that can actually fulfill some of those requirements. And then I think the next part of that is once you understand that, I think what you look to do is the things that can't be fulfilled, by your current inventory of technology products. You need to understand what the gaps are there. And if you could list out the things that you're looking for that you don't have covered by what you have today, those can become your business requirements when you evaluate new software that you want to bring into your telework program. So those are kind of the steps we go through when we do any type of a technology assessment, and specifically one for telework. So taking that to the next step, once you've kind of made a list of the requirements or things that you want to get out of the new software that you want to implement, the next thing probably is to consider, what is your budget, right? Once you have your requirements laid out, as I said, you have kind of this measuring stick to compare and make sure that you get the right software. But then it's kind of, you need to understand what it's going to do from a budgetary standpoint. If we stick with applications that are basically software as a service or cloud-based offerings, largely those have a tiered pricing model. And the way the tiers work is the lower tiers are less expensive and the higher tiers are more feature rich, but you do pay more for them. And the structure is usually a fee per person or per user per month. So, you need to give some careful thought as to how you select through that, because it could ramp up kind of quickly. You could get introduced to a lower end product, and it might only be say $6 a month, but to go to the next tier, it could actually be double in price. And while going from $6 to $12 maybe doesn't seem a lot, but when you start to think about how your workforce is deployed, and let's just say it's only $6 per month, but you do have 100 users, now that becomes $600 per month. So it's important to kind of go through and think a little bit of the value you're getting and what impact it's going to have to your operational budget. And just don't forget that a lot of these products, there are some free offerings, as I had mentioned earlier. In some cases, you may be able to leverage the free offerings and may not ever have to go to a paid subscription. But either way, the free offerings are a great way to introduce yourself to the product and try to figure out if it's going to be helpful to your business. Okay, I think. All right, good. I wasn't getting a response from my screen, so I kind of got a little ahead of ourselves here. So recommendations for a smooth transition to telework. Really what we recommend is that you implement solutions that are going to grow with your company. And I think one thing to take a look at is to consider this to be more of a longer term commitment. I know we're kind of thrown into it in a hurry and we have to make things work right now, but it is worthwhile to really think through what works best and what's most effective for your organization. Because if you do that, what you're going to do is you're going to build out a solution right now that in the future may be one of the components of your business continuity plan, the ability to work from home or the ability to work remotely. So I think if it's done right, it actually does pay dividends for you in the future. And also you may find that after you get used to teleworking and using these technologies, they kind of may become go-to technologies for you, and they may be helpful to you in a lot of scenarios. We also say that you should optimize your remote environment. So as you go through and you try some collaboration products, really look at them with an evaluation kind of state of mind. Try all the features and functions, experiment with them, experiment with your team, and start to figure out what works best for your team and what perhaps doesn't work for your team, and kind of optimize it so that you can make the experience the best you possibly can for your business. Okay. So ironically, the next one is problems with your network connection, which I think is exactly what I'm having right now. We wanted to give you a few tools to maybe, or a few ideas to think about how you can resolve some issues, common things that sometimes come up. So when you do go to your work at home environment, a lot of what happens is that, you have You basically are dealing with your home internet connection. So kind of really the point I wanted to make here is a lot of times it's easy to just go right to your internet service provider and say, hey, they're doing a bad job. I'm not getting the connectivity I need. But there's a few ways to check up on that and try to figure out if it's really the internet service provider or if it isn't. First thing we usually say to do is take a look at your cable modem, right? A lot of times if you do have a problem, the first step is to reset it, basically to unplug it, count to 10, and bring it back online and see if it clears the problem. Um, you know, uh, Another thing to consider is if your cable modem is old, because technology does change, I would say if it's more than 5 years old, it's probably not a bad idea to look at replacing it. And if you pay your internet service provider, if you pay a rental fee for that device, you should be able to get them to replace it for you for free. Let them know that you want more current technology, and since you said you pay to rent it, they should be able to swap it out for you. Another area to look at is your wireless router. When you set up your home office, it's a good idea to think about where you're going to position things and probably have an understanding of where the best signal strength is. So one of the things that you can do in order to figure that out is basically use a speed test. One of the ones that I've used in the past is speedtest.net. But if you go ahead from your laptop and run a speed test and say, run it from the living room, run it from the bedroom, and start to get an understanding in your house of where your best speeds are, it may give you some ideas on where you want to set up your home office. Additionally, if you have a specific space where you want to put your home office, one of the tricks you could try is to try to see how close you can get that wireless router to that office to try to help boost your signal. And finally, what I would also say is too, sometimes even if your network connection is in great shape and your Wi-Fi is in great shape, sometimes it's the application itself that's having some issues. So especially, applications are no different than anything else. If there's a lot of demand on them at any one time, they could actually slow up. So those are a few areas to look at if you're having some problems with a network connection. The last item on here, use cellular service as a backup. When things are not working well. Sometimes if you have a smartphone that has a data plan, you could turn on the personal or mobile hotspot and jump onto that, and it'll get you kind of through things in a pinch. Avoiding technical glitches on conference calls. So one of the things we recommend, especially as you first start getting oriented to running a lot of these calls, I think we've all been on some of those meetings where we've experienced technology issues. And I know it's very frustrating when you have a 30-minute meeting and perhaps the first 15 minutes are trying to figure out, why can't we hear you? So if possible, we recommend trying to jump on that call or start that call a little bit early, and then go through and test your microphone and test your speakers. And if it's a video call, test your camera and make sure you're in good shape. And that should help to make things start off smoothly. We also recommend using a headset. Using a headset really helps cancel a lot of noise. And I think it's very helpful in a home environment where you do have some variables. You could have some kids at home, you could have a dog. What we find is that by using a headset, a lot of times the microphone on the headset is closer to your mouth, and it's actually picks up the speaking much more clearer. And also, I think just anything you do with your computer or your keyboard, if that is actually your microphone, all of that is picked up for your audience to hear. And then lastly, what we recommend is, if possible, try to develop a video culture. I know sometimes it's a little difficult to go into video mode. I mean, we're not all Hollywood movie stars. We're not used to having cameras on us, so it makes us a little bit uncomfortable. But what you'll find, if you could develop a video culture, is you'll be able to see people and you'll be able to see their facial expressions, their body language. It actually adds a lot more to the conference. The other thing it does is it kind of it keeps everybody engaged. So based on that, what we find is that the meetings generally are more impactful. They're more to the point, and you could tell people are paying attention. And so, and I think what you'll find if you do have the ability to develop that video culture, you can have fun with it. And if you ever have a situation where somebody doesn't turn on your camera, you're almost kind of disappointed that they didn't turn it on. And that's a final recommendation. And with that, Dan, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, Drew. In case we had any folks who have not attended any of our previous webinars, I wanted to make sure you were aware of the following resources that are available on the Georgia Commute Options website. There you'll be able to find all 3 recordings from the Telework webinar series. You can also download a PDF of the Telework Quick Start Guide that the GCO team created. And there's also a link to the CDC's guidance for businesses, for those employees who may still have some employees in the office or they're just unable to work from home. Again, for those who may be seeing a GCO webinar for the first time, here's a contact list of our transportation management partners in the region. If you're an employer partner of one of these organizations, please reach out if you have any questions or are looking for additional telework resources. Special thanks to Johan Weber at Perimeter Connects and Katie Gable from Livable Buckhead, who helped GCO put this webinar series together. And I also want to thank Barry and Drew from Partner Consulting for helping GCO present this great material today. Lastly, I have to give a shout out to Ilham Shirazi, who's played an integral part in helping to lead this webinar effort. Last thing before I open it up to Q&A, there is a QR code on this slide. If you could please take a photo of that QR code right there, it'll pull up our SurveyMonkey. It'll take less than 5 minutes, and it would really help us to get your feedback and let us know how we can improve. And with that, I'll now open it up to Q&A. It doesn't look like we have any questions up there, so I'll give some time to see if we have any additional questions from out there of the attendees. But one thing, Barry and Drew, that I've seen in different articles is different companies who are trying to figure out, now that their employees have had to send all their employees out and working from home, they're trying to figure out different types of reimbursement and BYOD and that kind of stuff. Is there any advice you can offer to employers who are going through that experience right now?
And this is Barry. Yes, I can say that generally speaking, what we see in the marketplace are 2 distinct models. One is that the business provides the personal computer and the cell phone, and then there may be some reimbursement for people that take those home and utilize them over the internet, their own personal internet. Now, the benefit of that is control. Benefit is if you are dealing with proprietary information, proprietary software, many people feel that more comfortable that they have their devices locked down with the appropriate safeguards and concerns. But on the other hand, we find that in many cases, you can get some of that same privacy and security protection by allowing people to use their own device or bring your own device, BYOD, because more and more today there is mobile device management software that can specifically be used by a company to go in and monitor and then extract any corporate information from a personal cell phone or mobile device or PC device. So there is some protection on both sides. Obviously, having control over your own equipment gives you the maximum flexibility and protection. But again, there's a cost to that. We see both models working in the marketplace. It's really what's best for your individual company.
Thanks, Barry. Just real quick, we also posted the SurveyMonkey link there in the chat. If you want to just click on that chat, that'll take you to the survey as well. Still looks like we don't have any questions. Something else that's kind of close to the what I just talked about or just asked about, Barry, is for some of the folks who have, they're now working at home and they're having some IT issues or having no support, obviously limited support at home. What would you do? What would you tell folks who are having some problems with their IT?
Well, one of the things that is really helpful is to check with your peer group. If you can't get in touch with your network or technology provider, It may just be a matter of not being familiar with the application. And there always seems to be one person in the office that gets it quicker than anybody else. And that's usually your go-to person. And we find that if there's a problem, it's generally not isolated to one individual. It could be something that multiple people have had issues with. So by having a point of contact in the office that's part of your team, handling those questions, you may be able to resolve 60% of the open items just by the experience that other of your coworkers have had.
Thanks, Barry. Drew, we have a question from Carmelita. She asked, which software was mentioned that provides an opportunity to change background settings? I heard you say that again, but I wasn't specific. I couldn't.
Yeah, sure. It was Zoom, and it's kind of a fun feature. There's two elements to it. One is if you're kind of into the background stuff and you have something called a green screen, that's the way a lot of like if you were making a movie and you wanted to look like you were in another scene, they use a green screen that allows the camera to capture that background. Zoom also, if you don't have a green screen, has a way to do it without a green screen, and basically you just click on that you want to change your background, and you don't have a green screen. I think there's two default backgrounds that it comes with, and when you go into your Zoom application, you'll go into video and then go into, I think it's video settings. And one of the backgrounds is pretty neat. It's a beach with some palm trees, and it's actually a video, so it looks like the palm trees are blowing in the wind. But you can also, if you have a picture, like let's just say you had a picture of the New York Stock Exchange, you could actually take that photo and you could actually make that your background, so it looks like you're taking the call from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, say.
Thanks, Drew. We had another question come in from the chat, and Drew, this might be another one for you that since you did some homework on the individual software capabilities and companies, are you well aware of any of those different software that have online whiteboarding?
Oh yeah, yep. So Zoom actually has a really good online whiteboarding tool. Teams also has a whiteboarding tool that I've used as well. The Teams tool has different color markers, and you grab that and you're able to draw. The thing that I think that the Zoom tool does that is better than some of the whiteboard applications that I've seen before, it actually has a little template. And what you could do is let's just say you wanted to make a quick flow chart. You could actually click on a box, and then you could put that box on your whiteboard, and it actually creates the box for you. And then you can click on text, and you can actually type the text right in the box. And that's a much quicker way to kind of illustrate your point than trying to draw everything freehand with your mouse. But that's a couple of examples of ones that I've used recently.
We just had another question pop up. I know you mentioned that can you say again a few different types of software for teleconferencing that are available for free?
Oh yeah, yep. So Cisco's WebEx has a free offering. And I would say Zoom also has a free offering. Both of them, originally the way the free offering was set up was that they had some limitations, and they limited you to a 40-minute conference call. They also limited the amount of participants. But in this case, each of those examples have actually opened it up to 100 participants in your call, and they've also waived the limitation of a 40-minute meeting. So those are two real good free applications that you could try.
Thanks, Drew. Well,
sure.
There's no more questions. I will just say before we sign off here that we had a couple employers reach out to GCO just today in terms of they're trying to solve some IT issues that haven't really come up until just recently. And so we're going to work with Barry and his team to help those employers. But again, if there's any of you employers out there who needs support, just reach out to your transportation management partner or us at GCO, and we'll figure out who needs it to help support you with those issues. But again, thanks for Barry, Drew, and all of you who've attended today. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.